All right, I'm out walking again, so sorry if the wind gets in the way. But gonna talk a little trash today. So I currently reside in Houston, but as I said earlier, I'm a Mavericks fan, so that. But I wanted to just get my thoughts. He had his best years so far, some of the best years ever in the NBA in terms of scoring and production while he was in Houston. I believe he won the MVP. They went to the Western Conference Finals with Chris Paul. Were really close to beating the Warriors. And so I've been, here when I'm very familiar with James Harden. And so I've watched him maybe more than average. He's on TV a lot, etc. Down here at least. And of course, everyone knew him down here and talked about him. But one thing I've never liked about James Harden, and there are many examples I could use, is that he just has not developed his game. Now, people might say, like, what are you talking about? Because he's gone from scoring, being a sixth man on the Thunder, early in his career, to being, scoring champion, etc. How could you say he hasn't developed his game? And so what I would say is, don't confuse getting better at one or maybe two particular things is not the same as developing your game. And what I mean by that is, James Harden really, his whole career, has only had two moves. The step back three, and then going to the hole for contact. And that's really all he's just about ever had. And I've never liked that he's never really developed anything outside of that. No mid-range, no post-up, no turnaround. He's got, obviously he's great with the left and the right in terms of being able to finish with either hand. But he's just really gotten good at those one or two things. He hasn't really developed his overall game, and I've never liked that about him. Someone else that comes to mind when I talk about this topic is Dwight Howard. It's not so much I'm asking Dwight Howard to be able to cross guys up at the three-point line and then, take on contact from two guys and dunk it every time, or be able to shoot threes. But you've got to develop something. Get a little hook shot. Get a little 10-foot turnaround, a baby hook, something. And it's just something that has always bothered me about players like that, and why I just think they never, when they are young and at their best, they might be able to catch lightning in a bottle and win a championship or an MVP. But if you do not develop, once you get into your later years, James Harden I really think is gonna over anyone. Those days are few and far between for your career. And there's very few people who can just do that for the better part of their career and later into their career. And so I just think he's really gonna suffer. If you remember, like, I know Dwight Howard kind of got hurt, but again, wasn't that every time? I mean, those days are numbered, Got a lot of comments on my Dirk video about, you couldn't honestly think he's the GOAT. And, like, objectively, no, of course he's not the GOAT, He's my GOAT. I've been there since the beginning. I remember going to Mavs games in the 90s, and, it's a half-empty stadium. They even let you go down to the lower deck at halftime, that kind of stuff, because we were so bad. And but as a fan, as a kid, I just didn't care, right? So Hang on, crossing the street. So yeah, I was going to do a GOATs list later. And I just always thought Harden was really overrated in terms of that all-time list. You know, when you compare sort of his game overall to other people, I just don't, you know, I'm not as impressed. I mean, his output these last few years has been incredible. Like, you know, unlike anything, just about almost unlike anything we've ever seen from just an offensive standpoint. You know, he's really, you know, he had a lot of assists too for a while there that people don't seem to remember, or they don't seem to really think about, to go on top of his scoring. But you know, I was just never really as impressed as everyone else, if that makes sense. I just was never, I always thought it was a little bit of fool's gold that, in terms of what Harden was doing, while it was impressive and it was worthy of taking note, and you know, I think he definitely deserved that MVP. I believe he won MVP, if I'm not mistaken. And he got to the finals, which, you know, that, you know, for a player like him, being the best player on that team, like that was sort of his chance. And, you know, of course, you know, we can't all just be champions. I understand that. It's not like I'm necessarily holding it against him, but, you know, if you remember in those finals, in the kind of final minutes, you know, the Warriors had him pinned every time. He made a lot of mistakes. He was struggling to score. He had a lot of bad games there. And again, it's because he's very two-dimensional. It's either going to the hole strong or the step-back three. And again, those are nice if they're falling, but, you know, a step-back three is, you know, if that's what you're relying on, plus getting to the line a lot, essentially needing some help from the refs, you know, in a 7-game series over and over against the better teams in the league, they're eventually going to pick up on your tendencies. You know, they're going to be able to be more reactive and proactive to where they think you're going to go. They might have an idea of different schemes and sets that would work against your skill set, which makes you easier to plan for and guard. And so I was just always never fooled, or I just always thought it was fool's gold with James Harden in terms of what he was doing. Dwight Howard the same way. I never really liked Dwight Howard. You know, again, he was, you know, this kind of showmanship with his athletic ability, but his game never really impressed me much. Again, monster on defense, on rebounds, blocks, like that. Develop it to that next level of sewing up his weaknesses and maintaining his strengths. And same with James Harden. I just feel as if, you know, okay, I'm scoring a lot, so therefore there's no need to work on anything else. It's working, right? Why change it? Which I understand that mindset a little bit, but we're talking about trying to be prepared for anything and everything when it comes to the playoffs and trying to win a title. And I just don't think he ever took that part seriously. And, you know, you could bring up a lot of guys like this, to be honest, like Jason Kidd, although Jason Kidd's a little ironic that he's one of the leaders all time in three-pointers, but he never really could shoot that good, which, you know, is pretty ironic. I think it's just a testament to his career, long career. But, you know, like, people who can't shoot, like, bothered me. The game to 20 feet in the NBA, I feel like you should be able to hit a shot, you know, 60% of the time. But yeah, my video, I thought I'd go ahead and make it, but yeah, those are just my quick thoughts on Harden, players like Harden, and there's probably, you know, some other examples. Think about what could be. And so it's just kind of unfortunate because as great as he's been, you feel like me personally, I feel like he left a little bit to be desired in terms of what he could have done had he developed a little bit more of his offensive game. And of course, people have always hounded him on his defense, which I think is just more of you know, also a lot of times guys who expend a lot of energy on the offensive end, you know, it's really hard to be that 100% energy on both ends all the time. You know, guys like that are really rare. So, yeah, those are just my thoughts on James Harden. I'm sure there's tons of other examples that people can think of. But I just thought it's a little different for a guy who comes out and busts and maybe just doesn't adapt to the league, or he gets injured early, something like that, compared to people like Dwight Howard and James Harden, who, you know, they got to as close as to the pinnacle of their league just about as you can get without winning one. And I just look at guys like that, guys who achieve so much and it still seems as if they maybe only got, you know, 75% of their total ability out of the deal. But yeah, that's my video. I'm gonna make another one later tonight. I'll go live again later tonight, so I'll talk to you guys later.